Hello and welcome to Three Blue Boys, a brand new Birmingham City podcast made by Blues fans for Blues fans. We'll talk from everything from in-depth match analysis to upcoming fixtures, transfer news and all news relating to our beloved Birmingham City. I'm Dan Harris, your co-host, and I'm joined by my fellow co-hosts, Joe Harris and Andy Harris.
What's up?
How are we doing, gents?
Delighted to be here, actually, at last.
At
It's
last,
really
absolutely.
nice, isn't it? You know,
Yeah.
after all our talk about doing all of this, you know, about our excitement. We've seen many podcasts. A lot of people do them. We've talked a lot about Blues. I mean, that's a fact down the bloody ears, isn't it? Really?
Oh, absolutely.
So this is, really, to me, this is just all bringing together something that is organic and natural anyway. So
Absolutely.
in a formal way. So yeah, I'm delighted to be here. And yeah, Joe.
Yeah, exciting, isn't it? Exciting time. We finally got to it, as we were just saying, from our producer's sofa. Now we're finally on the actual podcast sort of realm on YouTube, and yeah, should be exciting, shouldn't it? Should be cool.
Yeah, all out there into the blue domain, so to speak. Yep. So as much as we value honest questions, feedback, anything fellow supporters want to engage us with and across our many social platforms, which all of the links are on the screen now and in the description below, then please do so, and we look forward to engaging with the fan base as well. So I think really to kick it all off today, we're going to have a chat about pre-season friendlies and some of the fixtures we've seen recently. It's all kicking off with the pre-season tour in Portugal and our match against Sevilla. Of course, 3-1 win for the Blues, and good all round. Good to see some new signings, returning some good performances, and of course players from last season as well. Joe, what's your thoughts on it?
Yeah, positive performance, wasn't it, overall? Obviously not to jump the gun, but obviously the next couple of games not the best. But as far as Sevilla is concerned, it was a solid performance, as you say. Like a lot of the first teamers from last season involved, and obviously the new signings looked exciting. Obviously, Kesh Anderson slotted us ahead after Saeed Bateka slotted him through, so nice to see a young buck in there.
It is,
getting
absolutely.
some game time, and he looks like an exciting prospect.
He does. He looks really good.
But it was a positive game. I think our identity was clear and obvious once again, taken from last season and continuation of that. And we played some nice stuff. Do you know what as well? Watching the game, it had a bit of a spark to it. Obviously, it's a pre-season friendly, but like, you know, at the end of the day, it's still pre-season. It isn't so friendly as such, is it? So
No. I think Sevilla kind of, you know, to some degree gave as good as they got, as it were. And that spark that Blues had, where there was that togetherness at places like Bolton and Wrexham when it kicked off, that was evident again. You know, I mean, Stano leading from the front in those kind of things as he does. But yeah, I think you're right. You know, last season's squad, Keshi, nice opener, a goal from a set piece.
Yeah,
you know,
finally. Yeah, we actually did that.
Yeah, it was amazing. I mean, it was good to see Chris Clara react the way that he did, you know, to get it in.
He did well.
Second half, the pace dropped off a bit, obviously, as there were a lot of substitutions and younger players were coming on. Sevilla had a few useful players. I think Janusaj, who was at Man United, was playing second half, and I think he started giving poor old Alfie Chang at left back out of position a bit of a problem out there. Yeah. Teething problem mistake, I would term it, from James Beadle, looking to play the right way, and I don't think Chris Davis would blame him for that. You know, to play the ball out.
No, I don't think he would. I don't think he would.
That's our style, but he misjudged it, and you know, the opponent was just too quick. And to be fair, he slotted it away very well.
As we say, it's an honest mistake, isn't it? I mean, we saw the people online obviously jumping the gun and calling him out. I understand, but you've got to give people a chance. You know, people talk about him when he played last season for Sheffield Wednesday or under-21s in the Euros. That's fine, but you know, we all know that Ryan Alsop made a couple of those mistakes last season.
He did, yeah.
We know BPF bid, obviously. Congratulations to him on his low move to Blackpool, but you know, you've got to give people time, and that's not just James Beadle. This is Bright Side Samuel, Kyogo, Kanya Fujimoto, all the new signings. They're just bedding in, and you know, you've got a new selection of players with this team that competed last season and got us up. You have to have time to gel together as a team, don't you?
I think you do, and I think always it's a little bit of a difficult transition period, that first friendly. They've had all sort of the training prior to that, and they're all coming back from the summer break. It's, you know, people are fresh, but the pre-season is very much about, as Damari Gray alluded to in his post-match interview at Burton, which of course we'll talk about later, that particular fixture.
Yeah.
That pre-season is very much about getting your fitness up, and I think that's different players are almost at different levels, because you might have taken a knock partway through training or maybe a match, and then it scales people back. I know there was a little bit of concern of the Burton game amongst Blues fans about Ethan Laird and Jay Stansfield being out, and it was just a case that they'd taken knocks and they're at different stages in terms of recovery, but both minor.
Or maybe, as we might talk about later, so we think it might not actually be.
So we think.
Scary.
Absolutely, yeah. Scary times. Hold on to your seats, Blues fans.
Yeah.
So fingers crossed there indeed. And then, of course, we were moving on to what would have been the return pre-season friendly fixture coming back to the UK. Would have been Solihull Moors in the Arthur Cup.
Yes.
Unfortunately, that was postponed.
Yeah, that was. Most people would look at that and say that was a proper cock-up, wasn't it, at the end of the day?
I think so.
I think, okay, in the summer, you don't expect things to be called off because of a poor pitch. But if it is, surely, in my opinion, you would know, if you're the club that owns that pitch or you're the groundsman, you would call it out before 2 or 3 o'clock on the day of the game or whatever it was. It may have been midday, but it was late.
Yeah.
It was late on. Now, we haven't got very far to travel, and a lot of Blues fans live in Solihull, so it wouldn't have been like, you were trekking all the way to Newcastle or something. No. But it's just the principle of it, I think, that let's not forget, right, this isn't just a pre-season friendly. This has got some weight behind it. Arthur Lavinia Hughes, it's important to preserve his memory and to move forward in terms of the charity aspect of this game. It's called the Arthur Cup for a very good reason. Yeah. And I just felt a little bit, and even though the game's been rearranged, I feel like it's been diminished a bit now. And, I do hope people go on Wednesday. We've got our tickets, all the rest of it. But the fact that now it's going to be a youth team, in effect, an under-21 team, I do worry about kind of the uptake for that. But it doesn't reflect well on Solihull Moors. These things happen. It doesn't make them a bad club. It just makes it an error. But to some degree, Blues don't look great either. But, as you said earlier on to me, it could be to do with training schedules.
Yeah, on the flip side of that, and just leading into obviously what Blues and how we react, is obviously there's communication between the clubs to ensure that the fixture continues as best it can. So therefore it got rearranged to St Andrews this Wednesday. So it is good that the club acted quick to rectify the issue and actually get us playing the game itself. As you say, the importance behind that is obviously it's got to be played.
Yeah, it has. Absolutely.
Tickets weren't expensive. I think it was it £6 a ticket?
I think it was £6 adult, I believe.
Or £8, something like that.
Something
I think
like
Solihull Moors were selling for like 12. So, and as you say, I mean, I hope people do turn up, despite the fact it is under 21s. And then obviously there's the other aspect of it, which is, does it fuck up our plans a little bit as far as, pre-season preparation for the first team? They were meant to play in that game Wednesday. Leading into the games on the weekend, how much does that have an effect on the preparations for Ipswich at home?
Potentially does. And I think just picking up on what you were saying there and the importance of the game itself, I would reach out to the Blues community, and I hope they would reciprocate this as well. It's at our home ground now. It's going to be at St Andrews Knighthead Park. Let's turn up for Arthur, and let's make sure we mark the day as we should. But in relation to preparations for pre-season, potentially has hampered that maybe. I would like to think maybe giving a little bit of rest maybe to the first team might make that there's more availability for the upcoming pre-season fixtures at Northampton and Port Vale, as we'll talk about a little bit later on. And then going in, of course, then to the final fixture against Nottingham Forrest in the Travis Francis Memorial game, and then onward to the first game of the season in the league against Ipswich Town. I just hope that it hasn't hampered momentum, and then obviously maybe other Blues fans like that are a little bit concerned about, as you've alluded to. But I'm hoping it hasn't done that. But only time will tell. And I think at the end of the day, I don't think we need to be concerned in terms of any sort of issues that might come about from the coaching staff from that.
It's a difficult thing to say, isn't it? We had the benefit, if you want to call it that, of going to the Burton game and perhaps trying to gauge what kind of impact that Solihull game being postponed had on the team.
True.
They played well enough in that game. The style wasn't any different. There were some good debuts. You know, I mean, Chris Davis called it a ridiculous goal that we let in, and when you watch it back, you can see that there's some hesitancy.
I'd tend to agree with it.
Yeah. Poor goal to give away.
It was.
There was between Samuel and Phil Neumann. They just got their wires crossed. I think those things get ironed out, don't they? Hopefully in the long term. But I don't think there was any kind of marked effect in the way that we play, and people kind of played slightly out of position, perhaps playing as a 10. He did okay, he didn't do terribly, but it wasn't his normal position, etc. So I don't know whether it makes it a thing or not. Maybe it'll get unfolded in the next couple of games, but friendlies are notoriously difficult to read anything from, and you shouldn't do in reality.
But as you say, that game, been cancelled, it got rearranged, and that bit is done now, and obviously we hope it's going to be a good occasion on Wednesday and people do turn up. But as you were saying, so Burton Albion away and Crew away, 2 separate squads, and the one that we happen to go to and some of the Blues fans watching going to as well. Burton obviously experiencing the first team there, and most of the under-21s at Crew. But as you say, talking a little bit about the performance there, what do you think? Good performance?
I don't think it was too bad. I think we played very much the play that we've seen, particularly under Chris Davis for the team. Other than maybe we could have been, as Andy alluded to, could have been a little bit tighter for the goal. Obviously, Phil Neumann lost his man there, which was a shame. And it was just one of them. It just pinged off the inside of the post and went in. On another day, it would have come back out to Allsop. It would have gone out for a corner maybe, but I don't think we should be judging too much on whether games win or lost, particularly with friendlies, because, like you say, they don't tell you much. I think overall we didn't play badly. I think we obviously could have been better in areas, as I've alluded to with the goal. There were some good performances in there. Very impressed with Doyle. Distribution's brilliant.
He was very good,
And going back to Ryan Allsop, I think he turned in, other than he couldn't have done much about the goal, turned in a good performance, a couple of good saves in there.
Yeah, we enjoyed being behind the goal, didn't we? From
we did, yes.
That corner and absolutely flattened that centre.
Oh, it was brilliant. That was absolutely loved that. Good lad.
Yeah,
it was
absolutely.
Yeah.
Followed by the chance of Ryan Allsop. He's a blue. As always, brilliant to see. Made a good save towards the end of the game as well, getting low down with his feet. So he did well there. Distribution again from Ryan, as we've seen from last season.
Yeah, it was great.
Going into the style of play from under Chris Davis, really good there. And for the Blues fans who were there, if they remember, one of their forwards was chasing the ball into the corner, and Phil Neumann overtook him. Some brilliant speed to see there from Phil Neumann. That was something I didn't expect, because obviously he's got quite a stature to him. He's quite tall. But really good to see. And I think we missed that at times last season. As much as we were pleased with Ben Davis paired with Christophe Clara, I think we missed that element. But overall, I don't think it was too bad at all at Burton.
No, I think it was, as you say, we maintained that identity that we've carried over from last year. I think other than their goal, we maintained control as we do.
Agreed.
Well, but as you all know, football is a results-based business, and we didn't penetrate them enough, I'm afraid. We didn't create enough chances. You had Iwata put one over the bar, I think, as it was squared to him from Paik, I think, from the left-hand side. Doyle had a bit of a half-volley chance. So that we had some flurries, and we'd kind of seen that last season, hadn't we?
Yeah, we did. Yeah, I think one of the criticisms that was levelled last season was about, the kind of be more clinical. Yeah. People would moan about winning games 1-0, and there'd be other chances where you think, well, the league could be stretched and you take the pressure off. And there was a bit of that going on. I mean, it was Kyogo's first game, so I won't draw too much from that. But getting in the positions was the most important thing initially.
Yeah.
But I think the finishing will sharpen up. But he did have a couple of decent opportunities. One which he swapped onto his right foot.
He did, didn't he?
And I was a bit surprised at that, because in all the highlights I've seen, he's very much a 2-footed player.
Yeah, I've been the same.
Very much can take it, from whichever side. So, but it's early doors, and you can't judge these things when it's just really just a fitness match. So,
that's the primary goal, isn't it? So I think overall identity was clear, which was good. It was a good performance in terms of we had good control, but as you say, I think those things that are going to give you the edge moving into the season, those are things that you're finer tuning, aren't you? That's the whole reason you have pre-season, because
of course you do.
Fitness is the primary goal, particularly earlier on, and then you start to fine tune, passing range, striking ability, building relationships with people in the attacking areas of the pitch.
Yeah.
We can't really comment on Crewe much too because we weren't there, but obviously it's always disappointing to see a 4-0 loss, isn't it? But
Absolutely.
I think a lot of the young boys there would have got some good experience at the least, I would say.
I think so, because it looks as though Crewe were fielding a reasonable, reasonably strong team. So I think it gives them proper exposure to a League Two team and the rough and tumble that goes with that, which they're going to have to, kind of embrace if they want to go further through football, because that's probably where they'll get low moves and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But Dan was making a good point there about Allsop and his distribution, etc., and that's going to be key again. And I'm really, really intrigued to see when James Beadle gets his chance for a full match.
Yeah.
How does he map onto that?
Yes.
Is he going to be able to replicate it, or has he got his own style of playing, which will bring something different that we've not seen before?
True.
So this is why I'm very, very open-minded about the keeper position at the minute. So I guess we'll see how it pans out. But yeah, it was a kind of nice day out, apart from the rain at the start.
Yeah.
But the match itself, it was just good to be back.
Yeah,
It was good. It was good. And despite sort of like, obviously it's going to be a smaller turnout, isn't it? Particularly, with no disrespect to Burton, smaller grounds. I felt the camaraderie was good. Particularly, we were in the denser populated terraces with the other Blues fans.
Anybody who was there in that end knows exactly what we're talking about.
Absolutely.
And a specific fan in the Burton end, which
absolutely.
I don't know how he feels about that.
Absolutely.
But it was.
Absolutely. Any away fans, keep it coming, boys. We're here.
Yeah, literally.
Keep it coming. And of course, at one point, I think Birmingham fans that we were in the terraces were chanting over to the Birmingham fans that were sat down in the neighbouring stand, "We hate Villa more than you."
Yeah,
that is a classic.
It's just brilliant.
Every time there's a split,
absolutely. You just got to love it, haven't you?
Yeah.
And of course, following, we've got pre-season fixtures, a split again on the coming Saturday. I know we've got the rescheduled game this coming Wednesday, as we touched on, the Arthur Cup against Solihull Moors, now at St Andrews at Knighthead Park. So looking forward to that. We'll be there again. So looking forward to that and supporting the cause, absolutely, as we've already mentioned. But Northampton Town, Port Vale, split fixture coming up on the Saturday. Hopefully we'll get to see more first team action again. I'm fully expecting on 21s and youth editions taking part in those fixtures as well. Again, as you'd want to see, important games on them. Value experience working with the first team and working with the likes of Chris Davis and his team as well, which will be good to see.
Yeah, he made a point. Sorry, Dan, about the 21s that played at Burton, talking about they look like a proper Birmingham team. He was saying kind of the effort, the energy, getting themselves stuck in. But more importantly for his identity, kind of playing the ball and pressing in the way that the first team do. I think that's what they're trying to do. They're trying to kind of convey that identity at all levels, and say this is what we do as a club, and if the formations may vary, from first team to under 21s to under 18s or whatever.
The women do it as well, don't they?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Of course they do.
But the principle's the same, and that's what they're trying to engender in these young players. He's like, this is the way that we want to see you perform.
Yeah.
And some of them showed up well. You've mentioned Diabetica already. He showed well. The lad at right back.
I know you're talking about. It was the number 9, wasn't it? He looked like.
Oh, that's Pendleton, I think.
Yeah, he was good. Yeah.
Yeah,
he looked like he was playing more like CDM type.
Yeah, he did.
He did actually from time to
took
time.
The ball in tight spaces.
More like that.
And did well.
Yeah.
So it's all about kind of as Dan said, getting them into and around that first team squad, seeing how they conduct themselves as top professionals, and this is what you're aiming for, basically. This is where we want you to be. It's good to see it, and it's good to know that they'll be involved in those other games. The Northampton and Port Vale games. But I also think that those games are now talking about a step up in terms of minutes.
Well, this is where I was going to ask to both of you, really. What is it that we expect and want to see, to a degree, these two games coming up? Are we looking at more of, we just want boys to get minutes in their legs again? Are we looking for more of a step up of having that edge, being able to be clinical in the areas that we need to be and pushing on in that sense? Do you think that that's more what should be asked of them now with basically 2 pre-season games left for the first team?
I think maybe I'd like to see against Northampton Town and Port Vale, maybe see sort of honing more the technical side of it, moving the ball forward quicker, not taking quite as many steps maybe. I know that's kind of maybe going against Chris Davis's philosophy a little bit, but I think we need to see more penetration. We need to see we just need to see the ball in the back of the net, really.
Yeah, I think as plainly as that.
Goal.
That's true.
Absolutely. Yeah. And then I'd like to think maybe against Nottingham Forrest in the Trevor Francis Memorial match, I'd like to see us as a first team really test it, obviously against a Premier League outfit, and a good Premier League outfit at that. I don't think anybody would disagree with that, and as standard Nottingham Forest have been playing at against some good quality players. But obviously you've got to be conscious the following week you're going to be playing against a former Premier League outfit, our first game of the Championship season against Ipswich Town. So you don't want to push too far, but you want to be able to understand maybe where some of your players are.
Yeah.
Not only in terms of fitness, but physicality, technical ability, and where they fit into that system and how that works towards our objective as a team and where we're going as a team.
Yeah, I think you're right about the Forest game. I think you'd agree as well, wouldn't you? That's where the test is going to be, because you know, we didn't really. I say that actually, we had the pre-season games last season. It was Rangers and we played Albion, so they were both a step above us basically by default. But Rangers, isn't it, in the SPL? But you know, now it's like we've played teams that are in League One or below. But I'm excited to play obviously the team that is going to be in the Premier League. I think it's pretty early in their pre-season in comparison to us. So are they going to play completely full strength? Probably not. But I expect there are going to be some players there that are going to be involved in the first team. So that should be exciting. But do you think that it's, as Dan was just saying and alluding to, do you think it is that cutting edge now that we're looking at?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, part of the difficulty for this is, you know, taking into account how the opposition are going to play. I mean, it was very noticeable to me that Burton played like Burton played in the league games. You know, they sat deep, didn't they? You know, it was about us breaking them down. They knew what to expect. Whereas the prior game, you know, when we were playing against Sevilla, Sevilla came at us. You know, they're a La Liga team. You know, they're not going to sit back and allow the ex-League One champions to dominate play and take over the game.
No, it's not the style of play in Spain, either, particularly a La Liga standard.
It is, and it's also about, you know, kind of that. Then some people would argue, I guess it's true to a degree, that leaves gaps. Then, you know, they're more willing to push forward to kind of leave those defensive gaps, thinking they've got full kind of trust in their own attacking abilities, you know, and confidence in it, and saying, we're going to bring people forward, and you know, and we believe that we're going to score when we do that.
Yeah.
And if they don't, the gaps open up for us.
Yeah.
Now, against Northampton and Port Vale, we're probably going to follow another Burton performance.
Yeah.
Because they don't want to get panned in pre-season. Now, okay, yes, it's pre-season, but it's not good for confidence to have 6 goals stuck past you at that stage. Against Forest, now Forest do defend quite well actually. Their way of playing in the Premier League is to kind of, you know, defend and hit on the break. They've got the players to be able to hurt you for that.
Yeah.
Whether they do that against us or not, I don't know, but I'm guessing they'll stick to that process. They've got people who are no longer there. Alanga's gone.
He has. Yes.
I think Gibbs White, I don't know whether he's gone or he's on the verge of going. There's be some talk, and I know there's been a bit of argy-bargy about teams tapping him up and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So I don't know what kind of Forest team we're playing, you know, what kind of stage they're at in their kind of progression and bringing players in and that kind of thing. It'll be a great test. It'll be a great game. I've watched down the years, back into the 80s, etc., and when they were brilliant at the end of the 70s, some great games against Forest. You know, really good games, you know, in that kind of traditional kind of blue versus red type setup.
Yeah,
you know?
it's proper classic.
But yeah, you know, it'll be good. But yeah, what you can draw from those games sometimes is dictated by the opposition and the way they decide to set up.
Yeah.
Obviously, the other big news is transfers.
Yep.
I think we've seen some impressive additions, as we've alluded to and we've talked about in terms of their performances in pre-season friendlies. We've seen obviously Doyle, Gray, and quite a few other additions as well that we've seen throughout the pre-season friendlies as well. And obviously, you know, there's been some talks of potential other moves, potentially even out of the club, other than Peacock Farrell making his way over onto loan to Blackpool as well.
Yeah.
But I think overall we've seen some very positive moves, haven't we? Really coming into the club.
Yeah.
Yeah, it might be worth mentioning actually, and just to kind of put some context on that. You've been at a funeral today, haven't you?
I have, yes.
So you've not caught up with the news, and when you were mentioning earlier about Dimmy Gray crossing in for Alfie May, which rhymes, so that'd be fantastic if it happened. But unfortunately, it looks like it isn't going to happen that way because Alfie's on the verge of joining Huddersfield.
Ah,
yeah.
So
interesting.
That's kind of developed during the course of today.
Yeah.
Now,
do you think maybe that's come about because of the other additions into the club, and Alfie's maybe started to question his role in the team more?
Well, I would say it's a couple of things. So I think what happened on the weekend might have given him his answer. On the absolutely long shot, he was watching this. I don't know if that's true, but he was obviously in what would probably be put across as the second team at Crewe.
I think so.
That must have given him an answer of sorts. And obviously, we've just bought in a striker that was in excess of £10 million, who's nearly 30, Kyogo. And surely he's going to be looking at that thinking, well, you've got your star man in Stano, Kyogo's in, Dykes is still there.
Yeah.
I personally, and I think actually I'll speak for all of us here, and maybe a lot of Blues fans watching, I'm a big fan of Alfie May.
I
think
I agree.
he's really bought into this club.
Absolutely, yeah.
Not to go on about him too much, but he'd gone full, open arms into this club as we did with him.
Yeah.
And I think he still would have maybe something to offer in the Championship. But,
I agree with you on that. Yeah, it's the kind of the difficulty there is that he's never played at that level, and what is also quite interesting to me is that nobody's ever took a chance on him at that level.
No.
And the team that's in for him very solidly now are League One.
Yeah.
Now you know that he's guaranteed goals in effect in that division.
He is.
I do wonder why, really, after scoring all those goals in League One for 4 or 5 seasons, why nobody's rolled the dice on him in the Championship, and maybe that tells part of the story. I don't know. I love the bloke. I think he's brilliant. He never stops working. He's willing to go into positions on the pitch that he's not really been asked to play in before.
Yeah.
Playing second fiddle to other people at times. Up until the last day of the transfer window last summer, he was the main man.
Yeah.
Until Stano joined. And he could have kind of, thrown his toys out of the pram and all that kind of... But he didn't. He just rolled his sleeves up and got on with it.
Yeah.
So I do feel sorry for him, but as a few fans have pointed out today, football probably always has been. He's very much these days a ruthless business.
And somebody who could be following him to Huddersfield Town, which might be news to you if you've only just heard about Alfie May, is Mark Leonard. So he also might be going to Huddersfield, I don't know.
Yeah, he could. And that, I don't know whether there might be a loan, because it might be, Chris Davis wants to see what he looks like at least for half a season. A bit like Louis Barry type of setup, What would he look like in a team that we think is going to be challenging at the top end, like Stockport did with Louis Barry? And then, if he's been playing well, would he come back and integrate into the team if we need him? Or could he go another level up or whatever?
Yeah.
But that one is a little bit more, well, at the time that I read it earlier on was a little bit more vague than the Alfie one, but it was definitely up there and out.
Yeah. Just to throw another one in there real quick, which I think would be also news to you, but whether this comes to fruition is why I was saying about Laird earlier.
Okay.
I can't remember exactly what I said, but maybe clip that in. But Laird might be going to Southampton.
Right.
There's interest there from them, which obviously we were saying earlier, weren't we, that that's direct competition.
Yeah.
In my opinion, that's a bad move. We should be absolutely blasting his... If you want to buy him out, we're going to put it up high to make sure they don't get him. If they want him, you can be paying...
Because at the end of the day, no disrespect to Huddersfield Town, they're obviously in League One. We're a step up in the Championship. So it's not competition to us. Southampton are going to be direct competition.
This is Southampton.
Joe means as far as Southampton's concerned with Ethan Laird. Yeah. When they've got to replace Walker Peters, haven't they?
Yeah.
So presumably making a move, or has made a move to a Premier League club, so they're going to look for a similar kind of right back, that raiding type that Laird is. So I don't know, again with that one, I mean, we're feeding a little bit off kind of, little kind of small rumours that grow throughout the day here, aren't we? Yeah. So I'd really hope there was nothing in that.
Yeah.
And I know, Boz is there now, to kind of, to put the pressure on Ethan Laird. But I don't know, I think to push those two players in the way they need to be pushed, they both need to be there, because I don't know who the competition is for Boz. If Laird goes, the other potential right backs, haven't got the same qualities.
No.
I don't think so either. I think it's going to be the direct competition, really.
Yeah.
And maybe Ethan Laird's looking at it a similar way to Alfie May in his position, is that, you know, competition's coming in. Maybe he was looking at potential offers elsewhere, because Boz potentially is a very similar player to Laird. I'd be disappointed to see Laird go, particularly as, of course, Southampton's going to be competition for us in that division.
Exactly that.
They're going to be up there with us. Some people might necessarily disagree that we'll be up there, but I think very much after the signings we've made, just in despite of how pre-season friendlies have gone, I think we'll be there anyway. And Southampton, I think, are going to be there, obviously coming down with the parachute money, former Premier League club. They're going to want to compete at that level, as are Ipswich Town, as are Leicester City. We're just going to see that. And of course, the other teams that have been in and around the playoffs the previous season in the Championship as well. I think I'd probably be most disappointed to see Alfie May go. Again, like you said, Joe, I think he could still do a job in the team. I really think he could, and I think that step up to the Championship is more than doable for him. Again, Mark Leonard, it'd be a shame to see him, but I think possibly, as you said, possibly a loan move. I think that'd be good to get him on retainer in that sense. I think Ethan Laird, if you did go, I think it'd be a permanent deal. I don't think that'd be a loan deal at all.
No.
As much for him as it is for us and Southampton. But it's disappointing. But I think in terms of players that have come in, as I've alluded to, it's been positive. But I think in terms of the players that we've mentioned that may well be departing from the club, that's very reflective of the players we bought in and the positions we bought them in. Which is good to see, because we've addressed that, and maybe from Chris Davis and his coaching staff, these are potentially areas for improvement that they've identified with these players that have come in and thought, well, this is how we're going to continue our philosophy, drive it into the first team, and obviously drip fed down, as we've mentioned, into the youth teams as well. It needs to be across the board, and if these are the players to do it, then I say in Chris Davis we trust.
Agreed. Yeah, agreed. The Leonard one's kind of makes sense. I think he was peripheral for a lot of last season. He played some good games. I always think the thing with Mark Leonard is that, and I don't know whether this is true, but I get this feeling that maybe Chris Davis doesn't trust him quite as much as the others.
Possibly.
Because to me, right, Chris Davis's approach to football is calculated risks. You know, so he doesn't take outward risks. He wants control of the game, but if people are going to take a risk, it's got to be something that's not a surefire thing, but don't try any risky passes, especially when you're in the centre of midfield like that. And there have been times when Leonard's tried to do something that I see that CD would think is a bit overly ambitious. You know, Iwata and Paik, and I guess even Tommy Doyle to a degree, are about keeping that possession until you've got to the right pass.
That's only amplified if you're playing in the six as well. When Iwata, on the rare occasion last season, I'm sure it'll probably happen this season more because of the competition and the opposition quality is better. But, you know, whenever he lost the ball last season, it was noticed because he was in the six, and then the team has turned you, and then, you know, you're right up against your centre-halves then. So perhaps when Paik would lose the ball, he's higher up. When Doyle loses the ball, he's in the six as well, and it's the same as Led, and maybe you're right, maybe when he did play, that trust maybe wasn't there that it is with Paik and Iwata and perhaps Tommy Doyle who's come in. So it's just part of the kind of what I call sometimes the Yokoyama syndrome, where, you know, you look at Yokoyama last season and you think to yourself, well, he's an exciting player, he's a ball carrier, he's got a little trick up his sleeve. But I always felt that Chris Davis thought he didn't play the percentages very well. Do you know what I mean? He kind of crossed the ball or shot when he thought the team should have retained possession and looked for a better opening. Because that's what it's about. It's about keeping probing. And until you find, I mean, you never find the ideal opportunity as such, but you look for the best that you can under those circumstances. And a player that shoots from distance before they've explored all those kind of options, I think does his head in a bit. I think that's just my view anyway. I think on the other side of that, though, sometimes you have to have a bit of that, like, oh, fuck it, just shoot from range, because
X, Y,
A and B is not working, so let's go to C and D. And that's why you have to have those players sometimes. Those big personality players that you've got your wingers or your centre midfielders or your strikers. And I would argue that, you know, Stansfield is one of those players as well. He plays the game we want to play, but he's somebody who, you know, it sounds a bit cringy, but somebody who's defined as a match winner. Somebody who can take the ball when you're 1-0 down away rainy night, on Tuesday night against Stoke or something, and he's going to level you, and you might go on to win the game. So on the, while I agree that the identity as a team has to be there, and to have trust from the manager, you need those players, like you were saying earlier, Dan, actually, with Damari Gray, who's going to take a hold of the ball and get us back into the game that way,
and move it forward that way.
Yeah,
definitely.
Yeah.
I think that's something we've probably all agreed on, really, and possibly even the wider Blues fan base.
Yeah.
And again, exciting prospect to see back at the club.
Yeah.
And I think the other thing that we've seen recently as well, on a separate subject, that's been really exciting, and I was just wow when it came out, was the trailer for the documentary that's going to be on Amazon. Just brilliant, absolutely love it. So excited to see that, and of course we'll see that debut on Amazon on the 1st of August. Can't wait.
Yeah, it's going to it should be really good. The only thing I'm unsure about is whether they're going to release it episode by episode, or it's just like they're going to release a block, like a season 1, for us to be able to view. Obviously, naturally, because it's about Blues, we just want the whole thing to come out, so we can just watch the whole thing.
Oh, I'd happily binge watch the whole thing.
Oh, yeah.
Absolutely. For 10 episodes in an hour at a time, I'd happily sit there and watch 10 hours.
It could release at midnight, and it could be 7 hours long, and I'm going to be up till 7 o'clock, and I'm going to work at fucking 9 o'clock, so...
Yeah, definitely.
New definition of the all-nighter, eh?
Yeah, pretty much, yeah.
And of course, we saw the emergence of a recent clip as well from Tom Brady, inquiring about our neighbours over the city.
Yeah, that was good.
That was brilliant, that was.
That was a classic bit of rage about online.
It is, absolutely.
Whack that clip out there, saw the Villa fans come crying.
Oh, absolutely.
Sorry, not sorry.
So,
yeah, we're just waiting for the first chance of Tommy Brady as a Blue and all that follows after that, really. It's going to happen as soon as he shows his face.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But that's what we're here to do. That's what we're here to do.
Yeah. It looked as you would expect it to, to kind of have that gloss that the likes of Amazon or Netflix or Disney or whatever can bring to that. It elevates it, doesn't it, when you've got that?
Yeah.
Now, as I've said to both of you before, as well, it really helps that Stephen Knight is involved with this. He understands TV productions, he understands drama. He understands how the pinch points work in terms of kind of, where have you got to direct your audience, what's your pivot in your storyline and that kind of stuff.
That's true.
When you're a bloke who's done things like, Taboo and Peaky Blinders, etc., you need that person who's a storyteller.
Yeah.
You do need that. And I think him bringing it to the party, along with an iconic sports star like Tom Brady.
Agreed.
That gives it that kind of, that sprinkle of stardust, doesn't it? Now, how it pans out in terms of like the watching public that aren't doused in blue like us, we'll find out.
Yeah.
Does it catch the imagination of the non-partisan fan? That's going to be the kind of
this is why when you
you
were just talking about the marketing aspect of it, this is why it's called Tom Brady and the Blues.
Yeah.
Now, as we saw in the trailer, the two women going, Tom Brady, who's he? Or, famous, don't know who the fuck he is, but your American audience, he's the biggest sports star in America.
Yeah.
Probably next to like LeBron or something. But, with that, you automatically have just drawn, potentially a new massive audience to watch because Tom Brady's in it. But then it's like, who's this Birmingham City, sort of thing. So it's like, you pull them in, and then it kind of goes from there, and that's like you were just saying about the marketing aspect of it, isn't it?
I feel that was something that may have happened with Wrexham to a degree, because I've seen podcasts from their fans during the course of last season. Obviously, our kind of rivalry with them was elevated at that point, but there were people around the world running those podcasts. I mean, literally one of them was run by, I don't know, a couple of American blokes and an Australian. There were no UK-based people there. And it sounds like they were pulled into the whole thing at the point where, when McElhenney and Ryan Reynolds kind of took over the club, when they were in the National League. Yeah. And that whole story that they followed all the way through, it's Hollywood, isn't it? For an American audience.
Yeah.
Two very recognisable characters. You've got Deadpool at the top of your organisation. It pulls people in.
Yeah.
So what you need that catch.
Yeah, it's a cross-section, isn't it? Bringing in people who otherwise wouldn't recognise the club, and possibly even associate with it and engage with the club. And it's kind of for me, it needs to pull everything together. It's the wider engagement, as you say, the outreach into the US that Wrexham have now got with Ryan Reynolds and Rob McElhenney, which has done wonders for them. I mean, personally, I've watched the Wrexham equivalent. It's good. It's good. And, you know, I'm pleased with the Wrexham fans that they've got that, because it brings about their club into wider circles that otherwise maybe it wouldn't have done before. Yeah. And it absolutely needs to do that for us in the US and across the rest of the world, really. And like you say, until it's really out there, you don't really know what that level of engagement's going to be. But the outreach needs to be there in the first place. We need to be getting out into those markets and have that cross section of fans that otherwise wouldn't have engaged with the club previously. But that's what people like Tom Brady and similar sort of celebrities, sports professionals are there to do.
I don't think I've ever been to a friendly match where potentially those people might have travelled very, very long distances or made a special effort to go and see, you know, what they consider to be a national icon. You know, somebody they think is, like, you know, highly rated in their own country. Yeah. And then that was amazing to me, you know, not just because they've done it, and you know, so well done to them for doing that, you know, but also. That's a really, really good example of exactly what Dan was talking about, that cross-section thing. Yeah. You know, there's a certain way of approaching sports stars in certain countries, isn't there? You know, everybody's got a slightly different attitude towards it. But you can't get away from the fact that people follow people, don't they? Yeah. You know, they look for celebs, they look for names. That's
a massive thing now.
Yeah, and associated with their own country. You know, people feel strongly and, you know, rightly so, patriotic about their own sports stars. Yeah. So, yeah, the Blues have been, I think, a certain degree calculating about doing that.
I was kind of going to touch on that, but I kind of, in an indirect way, I didn't want to, like, be offensive about it. No, do you know what I mean? Like, we didn't buy those players because we just thought, we need the international engagement. No. But it just so happens to be, and maybe there's some calculation there, as you say, there's got to be something maybe where they've done that as, you know, something that they've decided, well, we need to have a bit more outreach. It makes sense.
Yeah, I think maybe it could have started with Pate coming in first of all, as he did, obviously, and then they noticed it a little bit. Yeah. And then, you know, they thought, well, if any others come in at any point, kind of thing, you know, you can develop that as well. But it would have been new to them in the first instance. But it was. It's going to be a very interesting series. Yeah. You know, how it resonates with everybody outside of us, we'll wait and see. But at least we'll be interested.
Thoroughly looking forward to it, as mentioned. And just a final mention. As we come to a close, of course, upcoming fixtures Wednesday in a couple of days' time. We've got the Solihull Moors Arthur Cup, and then leading into our next set of pre-season fixtures, the split fixtures at Northampton Town and Port Vale on the Saturday. Yep. And then the following Saturday we see the penultimate pre-season friendly against Nottingham Forrest.
That'll be the last.
That'll be the last, rather than penultimate. That would have been the week before, indeed. That'll be a good test, as I mentioned before, the Trevor Francis Memorial game, and then, of course, leading into the big one, the first league fixture of the season, the Championship opener on the 8th of August against Ipswich Town. Gentlemen, as always, thank you very much for your time. I
Pleasure.
hope you've
thank you for
enjoyed opening up our channels to the blue domain.
Indeed.
Good fun. That's been good.
Look forward to more.
Absolutely. And of course, fellow Blues fans, if you'd like to help our channel, please consider subscribing. Help us get off the ground. That would be muchly appreciated. Give us a like if you've enjoyed today's video, and consider following us on our social media platforms on the screen now and in the link in the description below. Until then, stay true to the Royal Blue and keep right on.
Keep right on.